Some say it's difficult, nigh impossible to fall foul of recency bias in sport, let alone Formula One. And whilst Lando Norris of late has been brilliant in parts, consistency has always been his Achilles heels. We've seen mistakes in Spain. Imola, again, he had the fastest machine and probably should have won that race. In qualifying, he's been brilliant. However, yet and still, mistakes, self-doubt, being overly self-deprecating continue to rear their head and make a stand in the career that is Lando Norris's. And he has been around a while, for the avoidance of doubt. 2019, I think, from memory, was the first season. No longer is he a rookie, therefore, and he needs to start delivering on this as of yet unfulfilled promise. And as at today, in the qualifying session for the Dutch Grand Prix, he did nothing if not that, in the form of an absolutely god tier laps. The likes of Senna and Jim Clark would be smiling down upon Lando Norris viewing that. Go and check out the onboard. It's ridiculous. That car looks like it's on rails, and Lando Norris is optimizing for that, squeezing every millisecond out of that car and that lap in turn. Please see as a casing point, turn 10, optimizing precisely for the geometric racing line, taking every ounce, every millimetre of that track before then embracing, asking as little of the car as possible as he goes into the contoured cambered turn 9. Okay, so he gets a little cheeky oversteer that he needs to correct for on the exit, but yet and still that dude was god tier. For the avoidance of doubt, 3/10 down the road from Maximilian Verstappen. And if the F1 maths is anything that's worth investing in, you know what Max Verstappen is capable of. Only you need to see as your exhibit A. Austria gapping the rest of the field to the tune of 4/10. What did Lando Norris do today? 3/10 down the road from Max Verstappen. Okay, some will say that it's worth nothing because Max no longer has the car. That McLaren, the papaya coloured car, they have the whip hand. They are the fastest car on the grid as at the Dutch Grand Prix weekend. And I think that might be true. It would be disingenuous of me for me to argue against. But yet and still, as we've said about Maximilian Verstappen on a gazillion occasions, the driver in the car, even if they have the quickest one on the grid, still need to go out there and execute for it. 3/10 down the road as versus the other 19 best drivers in the world from Lando Norris is nothing if not executing, something that he's been struggling with of late. Please see Spain, the dodgy starts. Please see Imola not being able to get it done when again he had the best car. Lando Norris has come back from the summer break, a new man, refreshed, indeed facing down adversity. I don't want to hear the self-deprecating nature nor the overly Debbie Downering. Again, I don't see how that can help him if sporting endeavour and excellence indeed is where he's looking to get to. Fulfill for this as of yet consistently unfulfilled potential, Lando. But again, this is the first step, right? A god tier lap from the dude. In Sector 1 alone as versus the principal protagonist in this qualifying session at the Dutch Grand Prix, Lando Norris was as near as makes no difference. 3/10 down the road. 3/10 in a sector that's only 30 seconds long. Oh, the humanity. What are we talking about? Is this Lando Norris at the Dutch Grand Prix, or is this Maximilian Verstappen a couple of years ago at Monaco in Sector 3? There are dotted lines, paralleled ones that we can draw between those respective incidents. Lando Norris, for the avoidance of doubt, is a god tier peddler, but the job is only 50% done. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer for Lando Norris and indeed rain on his parade, but he needs to complete the gig. 25 points doesn't get given out on Saturday. That's on Sunday. And so I say that to say this. I'm keen to see Lando nail this, complete the other 50% outstanding of this Mission Impossible. What does that mean? Well, as a first priority order, he needs to hold off one Maximilian Verstappen into turn 1. A shortened turn 1, by the way, making Lando's life easier. He needs to think for the different circumstances, account for the variables in the race in real time, and ultimately nail himself 25 points. This is a championship now that we're considering. As remote as the possibilities that he can catch Max Verstappen with such a material gap between them, circa 80 points if I recall correctly, meaning that he's got to win every single race and Max needs to finish second, plus a couple of faster laps, and even then it will be touch and go. But this is the context in which we frame this conversation. Oh, be sure, for the avoidance of doubt, that Lando and Norris, lest we forget, is an absolutely god-tier peddler. That's the first portion of the job done. But second, he needs to execute for the race. And that's where he's been weak. Stop with the negative Nancy, Lando. We want for you to deliver on this as of yet unfulfilled potential desperately, me more than most. As a person who celebrates in sporting endeavour even, and the upper echelons of excellence, I know that Lando Norris has it in him to be that, to challenge one Maximilian Verstappen. How can you argue anything to the contrary when you see a lap like that? 109.673 WTF. The dude is incredible. Okay, so he has the quickest car now, but yet and still you've got to go out there and execute for it. You only need to ask Sir Lewis, Carl Davids and Hamilton, who by the way now has the car underneath him, but still struggles wrestling with this tech spec of car. Ground effect doesn't suit Sir Lewis Hamilton, and that's the driver of this circumstance, the fact that he doesn't get out of Q2 yet. Again, third time this year, I'm told, by the Sky Sports F1 broadcast. And it's a conversation that we all need to have as grown-ups. Listen, for the avoidance of doubt, I will never, ever in my life sacrifice truth and objectivity at the altar of partisanship or fandom. Not even Sir Lewis Hamilton's, as much as I love and adore that chap and have followed his career all the way through from back in the day, even before 2007 and the start of his F1 career. However, is he materially underperforming King George Russell, first of his name in qualifying season today? Of course he is. You can't even make the argument against. And yet again, today at the Dutch Grand Prix, another case in point. What's the struggle? The conspiracy theorists will say, Court LH, listen, it's got to be something. There's no way that he can be out-qualified so materially, so frequently by his teammate George Russell. There's got to be something at play, foul play. Mercedes must be tinkering with his engine again, tinkering with his tyre temps, and I say fugazi. Sadly for Lewis, he took an extra set of tyres through to Q3 or through to Q2. Q3 was the plan. But in doing so, you lose some momentum. Qualifying has always been a momentum game, especially for Lewis Hamilton. And in taking his foot off the pedal, not having to go ham 100% of the time in qualifying, he has lost himself a step. As brutal as that is to hear myself say it, unfortunately, Lewis finds himself again on the receiving end of a qualifying beating by his teammate, King George Russell of King's Lynn, Norfolk. How do you like your Formula One?